Everyone expected a standard hearing until Denzel Washington calmly revealed documents that left Marjorie Taylor Greene visibly panicked, defensive and exposed in front of millions. There was something different in the air that morning on Capitol Hill. Not the usual buzz. This was the kind of tension you don't see, but you feel in the nervous tapping of aides pens, in the tight shoulders of staffers, in the way Denzel Washington adjusted his cufflinks and squared his shoulders like a man who knew exactly what he was walking into. Span was live, phones up, reporters hunched over their notepads expecting the usual rinse and repeat. But Denzel had no intention of giving them business. As usual, he leaned into the mic with that slow, deliberate calm that always comes. Right before the storm, his voice is smooth as a jazz saxophone, but sharp enough to draw blood. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," he said, eyes steady. "I'd like to speak today about what I believe is a serious breach of public trust by one of our colleagues." That's when the air changed, chairs shifted, eyes snapped to tension, cameras zoomed, but Denzel didn't blink. He kept going. Each word precise. "I'm referring to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene." He continued in a series of financial discrepancies that demand public scrutiny. He flipped open a folder with quiet precision. "Let's start with campaign funds meant for the people, being redirected through two Georgia-based shell companies." A ripple ran across the room like a tremor before an earthquake across the table. Greene leaned in, her eyes locked on his hands, tightening. "You've got nothing but smoke." Washington. Denzel didn't even look up, just raised a single brow. "No, ma'am, I've got facts, not fiction." He lifted the folder slightly, letting the room catch a glimpse of the documents. "And I'd like to finish uninterrupted, if that's all right." The gavel dropped. "Let the gentleman continue," the chairman said, trying to keep up with the moment. Denzel turned. The first page calmed deadly. According to FEC filings, over 130,000 in campaign contributions were paid to a so-called consulting firm named Oakstar Strategies, a firm with no physical office, no staff, no traceable operations. Greene's voice cut in sharper. "Now it's a legitimate business. And, you know it." Denzel looked at her, cool, steady. After 3 phone calls, 2 disconnected lines, and a FOIA request that came back with nothing, "I can tell you this. I don't know it because it doesn't want to be found." That was the moment the room changed. You could see it in the staffer zone. Young aide typing like mad, another nudging a colleague with wide eyes. Reporters leaned forward, phones lit up. But Denzel wasn't done. "Let's move on," he said, flipping to the next page. "Our reimbursement request: 3 nights in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 5-star lodging, private flights labeled as strategy sessions." Greene was boiling. "Now that trip was cleared? You're twisting things." Denzel didn't even flinch. "I have flight logs, Representative. Would you like me to read them?" The air was thick now. Nobody looked away. Even the chairman had stopped pretending to take notes. He was just watching Denzel. Then Denzel paused, letting the silence work. "If American taxpayers are funding luxury escapes disguised as political work," he said softly, "then they deserve to know if someone's hiding that we have our responsibility to say it plain and simple. You're playing politics." Greene barked. "This is a witch hunt." Denzel leaned back, slightly calm as ever. "Then there's no reason to be afraid of the truth." And that's when the shift hit. The game changed. This wasn't political theater anymore. This was exposure, live and unscripted. Then he turned the next page. The energy shifted again, like someone had cracked open a vault in a thunderstorm. Denzel didn't speak right away, just waited, let the weight of the moment breathe. "Then this isn't just about donations or travel. This is about credibility, about what's said behind closed doors when they think no one's listening." He paused, then added one word that hit like a gavel: transcripts. That word rang out like a bell in a cathedral. Greene's whole body went stiff. Transcripts of what she demanded. Denzel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need telephone calls. He said, "One from March 9th. Off last year, 1 in July," both referencing PAC money being funneled into personal real estate, including a property bought in Flagler Beach, Florida. Somewhere in the room, a sharp gasp cracked the silence. Greene's voice rose, cracking with fury. "You're lying. That's fiction, made up garbage." Denzel didn't argue, just slid a small printout, crossed the table to the clerk, and turned back toward the chairman. "For the record," he said smoothly, "these transcripts have been submitted. As part of the official hearing documents, 2 independent sources verified them before I even considered reading them aloud." No one jumped to Greene's defense. Not one Thessalon spoke louder than words from the gallery. A reporter whispered, "Oh my God," as she reached for her phone. And Denzel continued cool, unshaken as the March 9th call came into focus, rerouting $20,000 from the Freedom Rising PAC TOA private account under the name of a Florida-based LLC owned by her brother-in-law. When asked why, the aide on the call responds, quote, "We need it for the beach house. She's got contractors waiting." Dead silence. Not even the chairman reached for the gavel this time. Marjorie Taylor Greene stood up, trembling with fury. "This is slander. I don't even have a brother-in-law," but Denzel Washington was already holding up another page measured, unfazed. His name, Denzel said calmly, is Ronald Ederton, married to your husband's sister Kendrathy. LLC Bay Rise Investments was registered in Florida 2 months before that. $20,000 transfer. He held the document steady. "I've got the state business filings right here now." The room didn't just stir, it shifted. One of Greene's staffers quietly slipped out through a side door. Another fumbled her phone, tapping furiously. Greene pointed, her voice unhinged. "You're a liar, a bold-faced, media-hungry liar." Denzel didn't flinch. His voice was cool, controlled, surgical. "Then tell me this. Why did the bank flag that transfer? Why is there a note about a fraud investigation that opened and then, mysteriously, closed 2 weeks later with zero public record?" He leaned back slightly, eyes still locked on hers. "Because you thought no one would look twice, but I did. Cameras were still rolling. You could hear breathing in the room." Finally, the chairman stirred when need. A 5-minute recess. Denzel shook his head gently. "No, we don't." And just like that, he reclaimed the floor. "In July," he said, flipping the next page, "there's another call, this time with a developer in San Diego. Same PAC, same shell company, $50. 000 consulting fee listed as security adjustment." He paused, but the man on the other end, he says they never met, never spoke, no contract, no paper trail. The chairman looked like he wanted to interrupt, but the words didn't come. Denzel turned toward him. "Mr. Chairman, these are not accusations. These are verified, documented transactions. If we'll sit in this room pretending to represent the people yet turn a blind eye when it's one of our own, what exactly are we doing here?" Then he stood up. He let that question float, no rush to fill the silence. Greene was silent, nowhere, face flushed, jaw tight, her hands no longer fidgeting, just clenched, unlettable like stone. And outside that room, the press was already writing the headlines fast. But this wasn't just exposure anymore. This was an unraveling, a storm on the horizon, and Denzel had just opened the sky. The hearing room didn't feel the same anymore. The air was denser, like the oxygen had dropped, and the gravity had doubled. Greene leaned back, arms crossed, lips pursed so tightly it looked like she was chewing her own fury. She wasn't used to this, not on camera, not in front of the whole damn country. Then Denzel reached for another file, slimmer, colder, the label. Red Private Travel Disbursements, 2021 to 2023. He looked straight at Greene. "Let's talk about the trips," he said, "the ones labeled strategic meetings but linked to private donors, real estate brokers, and a few cryptocurrency investors out of Scottsdale, Arizona. A new beat, not just PAC money now. Not just violations, something darker, something slick." Greene gave a bitter laugh. "Crypto, are you serious?" Now Denzel didn't miss a beat. "Now I am," he replied, "because I don't think the American people expect their elected officials to be vacationing at the Phoenician on the dime of unregistered lobbyists and calling it research." He flipped the page. April 2022. "You were flown to Scottsdale, private jet, registration number N549T. That plane is registered to a holding company, Orbit Holdings. Its owner, Leonard March, is currently under IRS investigation for international wire fraud." The name landed like a stone in still water. People in the gallery stirred, whispered notes, scribbled phones out. "You stayed 3 nights in a luxury suite. I've got the invoice," Denzel said, tapping the document. "Softly paid in full by Orbit and not once disclosed in your official financial filings." Greene twitched. "That's not mine to disclose," she hissed. "He offered to cover the stay, didn't pay for it." "Exactly," Denzel said, "and that's the problem." His tone shifted, colder, now sharper, accepting unreported gifts from individuals under federal investigation while sitting on the oversight committee. That's not just unethical, that might be criminal. The chairman looked up but still didn't stop him. Nobody did. Denzel flipped again. May 2023, Sedona. Another private flight, this time chartered by donors tied to Westbridge Energy and oil lobbying firm out of Dallas. Two of those donors had cases pending before the Environmental Affairs Subcommittee. That one landed hard. Greene's voice shook. Now stop it. You're twisting everything you know how. This works. Members get offers. We make appearances. This is normal. Denzel raised a hand slightly. Not to silence, just to cut through. It's not the appearance, he said, it's the pattern. He took a few steps from the mic, his voice softening. Just slightly. Not weak. Just human. The same names. Same jets. Same hotels. No disclosures. Then he stopped, looked right at Greene and asked low and calm, "Let me ask you something, Congresswoman." A pause. "Why did you meet with Nicholas Ev?"